Your sister decided she needed independence, my mother explained at Thanksgiving, her voice carrying the practiced compassion of someone who'd rehearsed her lies in the mirror. Maya wanted to find her own path. We gave her our blessing and some money to get started. You know how 18-year-olds are, always eager to prove they don't need family. My father nodded solemnly, playing his supporting role in a narrative they'd clearly constructed together, while I processed the sudden absence of the sister who'd been part of my life for 12 years. 3 months later, I found Maya living in a homeless shelter 40 miles away, weighing 87 pounds, clutching the garbage bag of clothes our parents had handed her at a bus station along with $40 and instructions to never contact them again. And that's when I discovered the truth about the $1,400 monthly adoption subsidy checks that had been depositing into my parents' account since the day she arrived. Payments that had turned my sister into a revenue stream they'd simply discontinued when she aged out of profitability. They'd collected $201,600 over 12 years. She'd received a garbage bag and a bus ticket. Let me tell you about the sister they discarded and the parents I destroyed. Maya came to us when she was 6 and I was 10. I remember the social worker's car pulling into our driveway, the small figure emerging with a backpack that seemed too big for her body and eyes that had already seen too much. Her biological parents had lost custody due to neglect. The foster system had shuffled her through 3 homes before landing her with us. My parents presented themselves as saviors. Church-going, community-minded, eager to provide a forever home for a child in need. The adoption was finalized within a year, celebrated with a party that made the local newspaper. What the newspaper didn't mention was the adoption subsidy, monthly payments from the state designed to help families care for children with special needs or traumatic backgrounds. Maya qualified due to developmental delays from early childhood neglect. $1,400 per month. Guaranteed until she turned 18. Tax-free. I didn't know about the money until much later. I just knew I had a new sister, and I was determined to make her feel welcome. Growing up, the differences were subtle but present. My clothes were new, Maya's came from thrift stores. Teaching her to appreciate value, my mother said. My activities were funded without question. Maya's requests were met with sighs about tight budgets. My birthday parties were celebrations. Maya's were obligations. I noticed but didn't understand. I thought some parents just connected differently with different children. I thought Maya's quietness was personality, not survival. I was wrong about everything. The subsidy payments explained so much in retrospect. My parents had calculated exactly what Maya cost versus what she generated. The $1,400 monthly covered her basic needs with money left over. Money that funded improvements to our house, vacations I'd assumed came from my father's salary, a lifestyle that was subsidized by a child who received the minimum required to maintain the payment stream. They'd run the numbers. Maya was profitable. Until she wasn't. Maya's 18th birthday fell on March 15th. I was 22, living in an apartment across town, starting my career. I couldn't make it to her birthday dinner, work conflict, but I sent a gift and called to wish her well. She sounded strange on the phone. Quiet, even for her. Is everything okay? I think so. Mom said she has a surprise for me tomorrow. That's exciting. What kind of surprise? She won't say. But she made me pack all my stuff. Said we're reorganizing my room. I should have heard the warning. Should have recognized the setup. But I was busy, distracted, confident that whatever my parents' flaws, they wouldn't actually harm Maya. I was catastrophically naive. The surprise was a 40-mile drive to a bus station in a city where Maya knew no one. My mother handed her a garbage bag containing her clothes, $40 in cash, and a speech she'd apparently prepared. You're an adult now. You need to learn independence. We've given you 12 years, and now it's time for you to make your own way. Don't contact us. You need to stand on your own feet. She drove away while Maya stood on the sidewalk, 18 years old, holding everything she owned in a trash bag. I didn't find out for 3 months. My parents told me Maya had chosen to leave, that she'd become difficult, rebellious, determined to prove she didn't need family. They expressed concern but also acceptance. Teenagers needed to make their own mistakes. I believed them because I didn't want to believe the alternative. Then I received an email from a shelter social worker. Are you Olivia Thornton? Maya listed you as her emergency contact. She's been with us for 6 weeks. She needs help. I drove 40 miles in a state of numb horror. The shelter was clean but crowded, beds lined up in rows, women of various ages dealing with various catastrophes. Maya was in the back corner, curled on a cot, so thin I barely recognized her. Maya! She looked up. The hope and fear in her eyes broke something in me. Olivia? You came. Of course I came. Why didn't you call me sooner? They said not to contact anyone. I thought you knew. I thought everyone agreed I should leave. She'd believed them. Of course she had. After 12 years of being made to feel like a burden, being told to disappear didn't seem like cruelty. It seemed like confirmation of what she'd always suspected. She was never really wanted. I took Maya home that night. Fed her, clothed her, held her while she cried out years of accumulated pain. Then I started asking questions, and the answers rebuilt my understanding of everything. The monthly payments, the minimal spending, the way my parents had calculated exactly when Maya would stop being profitable and planned her disposal accordingly. She wasn't their daughter. She was never their daughter. She was an investment that had reached maturity. The investigation took 6 months. I hired a lawyer who specialized in adoption fraud. We subpoenaed financial records, interviewed former caseworkers, documented everything my parents had received versus everything they'd provided. The math was damning. $201,600 in subsidy payments over 12 years. Maya had received thrift store clothes, shared bedrooms, minimal activities, and basic food. Conservative estimates suggested my parents had spent perhaps $60,000 on her actual care, leaving $141,600 in profit from raising a child they'd never intended to love. The fraud extended beyond just the financial abuse. The annual recertification forms they'd submitted contained lies. Therapy Maya never received, educational expenses never incurred, activities never funded. They'd systematically deceived the state to maintain a payment stream. The charges were comprehensive. Adoption subsidy fraud, false statements to government agencies, child abandonment, financial exploitation of a minor. My mother cried in the courtroom. My father maintained he'd done nothing wrong. They'd raised her, hadn't they? Fed and housed her for 12 years? The subsidy was meant to help with costs, and it had. The subsidy was meant to benefit the child, the prosecutor responded. You treated it as personal income while providing bare minimum care, then discarded her when the payments stopped. That's not parenting. That's exploitation. The sentencing was delivered on a gray Tuesday. My mother received 4 years for fraud and conspiracy. My father received 3 years for the same, his sentence slightly reduced because the investigation suggested my mother had been the primary architect. Restitution was ordered. Full repayment of the $201,600 in subsidies they'd received, plus $75,000 in damages to Maya. They'd spent most of the money years ago. The house would have to be sold. Their retirement accounts would be liquidated. The comfortable life they'd built on my sister's suffering would be dismantled piece by piece. Maya watched the verdict from beside me in the gallery. She didn't cry, didn't react visibly, just squeezed my hand once, briefly, when the guilty verdicts were read. I didn't want this, she said quietly. I just wanted to know why. Why what? Why they took me if they never wanted me. Money. They wanted money. It was never about you, never about anything you did or didn't do. I turned to face her fully. You were a child. You deserved a family. What you got instead was people who saw you as an opportunity. That's their failure, not yours. She nodded slowly, processing. Does it help? Knowing? I don't know yet. Maybe. Maybe it's just a different kind of pain. Maya is 23 now. She lives in her own apartment, paid for initially by the restitution settlement, maintained now by the job she's built as a social worker. She helps children in foster care, the ones nobody wanted, the ones the system forgot. I know what it feels like, she told me once, to be a file number instead of a person. If I can make even one kid feel seen, feel valued, feel like they matter beyond what they cost or generate, that's enough. She's made far more than one kid feel that way. Her supervisor calls her their most dedicated caseworker. My relationship with my parents is non-existent. I visited once, early in their incarceration. My mother cried and apologized, not for what she'd done, but for getting caught, for losing everything, for the embarrassment of prison. You could have helped us, she said. Convinced Maya not to press charges. We're your parents. Maya is my sister. You raised us both. You chose to treat one of us as family and one of us as income. I stood to leave. The choice you made wasn't just about Maya. It was about who you are. And I can't have people like you in my life. I haven't been back. The house sold at auction last year. Strangers live there now, unaware of the history within those walls. The room where Maya slept for 12 years while being treated as profitable cargo. The kitchen where my parents calculated her value and found her wanting once the payments stopped. I drove by once just to see. Then I kept driving. Some places don't deserve revisiting. Maya and I have dinner every Sunday. We're building the sibling relationship we should have had all along, the one my parents' exploitation prevented. She's teaching me to see her as she actually is, strong, resilient, capable of surviving things that would have broken most people. Do you ever regret it? She asked me recently. Turning them in? Losing your parents? I lost parents who raised a child for profit and threw her away when she stopped generating income. That's not a loss. That's an escape. But they were still They were people who did a terrible thing to someone I love. When I found out, I had a choice, protect them or protect you. I met her eyes. I chose right. I'd choose the same way again. The adoption subsidy system has been reformed in our state. Maya testified before a legislative committee, sharing her story, pushing for stricter oversight and accountability. The law now requires more frequent in-person assessments, financial audits, and mandatory interviews with adopted children away from their parents. It won't stop everyone, she acknowledged. But maybe it'll stop some. Maybe some kid won't go through what I did. That's what Maya does now, transforms pain into prevention. Turns her worst experiences into protection for others. Our parents tried to use her. She became something they never imagined, a force for change. She chose to leave, my parents had said. The lie they told to cover their disposal of a human being they'd never valued as anything more than monthly income. Maya didn't choose anything. She was discarded, thrown away, treated like equipment that had reached the end of its useful life. But she survived, found her way to a shelter, then to me, then to a life she's built entirely on her own terms. Our parents are in prison. Their house is gone. Their reputation is destroyed. And Maya, the revenue stream they exploited for 12 years, is changing laws, helping children, and proving every day that value isn't measured in monthly payments. She was worth infinitely more than $1,400 a month. They were too blind to see it. I'm grateful I wasn't.